Hello everyone, and welcome back to Whispers of Turkish Stars. Make yourselves comfortable, because what we're about to share feels like a turning point, the kind of reveal that lingers long after the video ends. If you admire the connection between Erkan Meriç and Hazal Subaşı, today's episode will feel especially intimate. We're opening a fresh chapter in their story, one layered with expectation, meaning, and a vow that has people talking in whispers and in shouts. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed, hit that button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive. Your support keeps this conversation alive, and trust me, this is one conversation you'll want to follow all the way to the last second. So what exactly is unfolding between Erkan and Hazal? A new chapter, yes, but not just the vague sort we toss around on slow news days. We're talking about movement, intention, a clear sense that they've stepped over an invisible line from what was into what's coming. And at the center of it, a promise. A promise that sounds simple when spoken, but carries the kind of weight that only time and resolve can hold. Think about what these two represent to their audience: talent, grace under pressure, and a connection that refuses to dull even when the spotlight tries to bleach everything flat. Both have been guarded in public, careful with words, precise with appearances, and yet it's exactly that quiet certainty that makes this new development feel profound. When people like Erkan and Hazal let a promise slip into the light, it isn't a throwaway line. It's intent. Now, the speculation is fierce. Fans are reading captions as if they're codes, replaying interviews to catch inflections that might have seemed irrelevant a month ago, and stitching together sightings from cafes and studio corridors. What are we seeing? Not noise, signals. A pattern. And yes, it points to a crossroads where personal and professional lives meet and refuse to pretend they're separate anymore. On the professional side, whispers say they've been looking at material together. Scripts shared across tables, concept notes scribbled between sips of coffee, and a calendar that suddenly looks aligned. A project with the two of them front and center would be the surprise no one dares to predict aloud for fear of jinxing it, but the clues keep piling up. A meeting here, a like there, the same photographer capturing them days apart under suspiciously similar lighting. Imagine a film that plays to their strengths. Quiet intensity, layered glances, chemistry that doesn't need to be shouted. Imagine a series that lets them build slow-burn tension over weeks, a story they shape not as random co-stars but as two people who know how to move together on and off-screen. But there's more. There's a second thread, quieter and more intimate, and it's here that the word promise begins to glow. If you've noticed the recent tone of their posts, those meditative sunsets, those captions about patience, building, choosing, then you felt the shift. They're talking about decisions that last. They're pointing towards something they intend to grow, not just announce. And that's why the promise matters. It hints at a commitment to each other's dreams in a deliberate way, an agreement to show up not only when the cameras roll, but when life turns complicated and demands time, sacrifice, and real faith. People are speculating about personal steps, a home base chosen not only for convenience but for peace, days carved out for family even when schedules threaten to consume every hour, shared projects that speak to values they've quietly nurtured. There's talk of a philanthropic initiative, something with heart, something that isn't performative. The idea of a foundation keeps coming up in the whispers. A focus on education for aspiring actors with limited means, or mental health support within the industry, or a program that lifts young creatives into rooms they've never been allowed to enter. If Erkan and Hazal are indeed promising to devote themselves to something bigger than applause, that would be a legacy move, one that tells us they're thinking beyond the next premiere. Let's not dismiss geography either. Rumors say they've been looking outside the usual noise, scouting quiet pockets where work can thrive and the soul can breathe, the corners of Istanbul bathed in old light, or coastal horizons that slow a heartbeat just enough to let clarity in. Imagine them dividing time between set life and a place that belongs only to them, a retreat where they can keep their compass steady. That, too, could be part of the promise. Protecting what matters from the chaos, drawing bright lines around their boundaries, and choosing presence over constant performance. What does a promise from them look like in practice? It's not a dramatic gesture for cameras. It's daily. It's showing up for each other's victories, and equally for the missed chances and awkward stumbles. It's an agreement to listen before assuming, to keep growing instead of calcifying into a brand, to be brave enough to change course together. When you step back and look at their recent choices, you see the outline of something intentional. They aren't clinging to the past, nor are they leaping blindly into trends. They're deciding. And that word is powerful. Now, let's talk about how we got here, because the breadcrumbs are everywhere. An interview where Hazal paused before answering a question about long-term plans, then said, "I'm learning to choose what is meaning." A quiet smile from Erkan when asked about collaboration, followed by, "The right partner makes even the hardest work feel simple." A shared friend liking posts that reference building, planting, waiting for a season to arrive in its own time. These aren't accidents. They're narrative threads, and together they stitch a picture. The new chapter is already underway, and the promise is already guiding their steps. This matters for their audience in a way that goes beyond curiosity. Fans have watched them weather transition, redefinition, and reinvention. They've seen them navigate attention and rumor, each choosing dignity when spectacle would have been easier. So when people say they feel invested, it's not because they demand ownership. It's because the story of Erkan and Hazal, separately and together, has become a mirror. Ambition without hard edges. Vulnerability without weakness. A kind of love that doesn't need to be shouted to be believed. If they're promising to carry that spirit into what comes next, then of course their followers feel included. Of course the energy shifts. Professional possibilities are intoxicating to imagine. A drama that allows layers to unfold without forcing anything. A film that trusts silence and breath, where the camera lingers because what's unspoken is louder than any line. A creative venture behind the scenes, production, writing, story development. Where they can build stories for others and hand opportunity down the ladder. Picture them choosing scripts about second chances, resilience, the emotional architecture of trust. Picture them executive producing something with purpose, the kind of project you feel in your chest. And personally? The promise could be simpler and bigger: to be each other's base camp. To refuse to let distance, gossip, or career storms turn them into strangers. To protect rituals. Walks before sunrise, notes left on refrigerators, schedules that honor time together. Maybe they've vowed to keep healing old hurts instead of pretending they don't exist. Maybe they've agreed to bring out the best in each other on purpose, deliberately, because love isn't an accident, it's repetition. If that's the promise, then it explains the steady glow you've been sensing. It explains the ease in interviews, the softness in eyes, the certainty in posture. There are practical signs too. Coordinated appearances without fanfare. A carefully timed absence from a noisy event that everyone expected them to attend, replaced by a smaller engagement aligned with their values. An unexpected visit to a workshop for young performers, where the cameras didn't follow and the photos appeared only after the fact. A meeting with a director known for character-first storytelling. None of these things shout. Together, they sing. Consider the weight of the word promise itself. It isn't a wish. It isn't even a plan. It's a bond that changes how you move. When people of their caliber make a promise, it becomes the foundation under every step. It shapes which calls they return, which offers they decline, which late nights they accept because the work matters and which they abandon because the work can wait. We often think promise means limitation. No. In the right hands, promise means focus. Why does this feel like a new chapter rather than just another busy season? Because the edges are different. The priorities are sharper. The joy seems less performative and more rooted. They aren't trying to dazzle, they're trying to build. And their promise, though we won't pretend to know its exact wording, sounds like a pact to choose meaning over noise, to create instead of simply consume attention, and to protect whatever they're making together as if it's both fragile and unbreakable. Will this chapter include works that bring them back together on screen? The whispers say yes. If that happens, expect something curated, not rushed. A story that respects where they are now, not where audiences left them. And if the chapter is also personal, if it becomes an announcement that shifts the ground beneath our feet, then we'll say we saw it coming in the subtleties, the careful tenderness of recent months, the way they keep returning to themes of growth and home. What excites us most is the sense that this isn't a stunt or a momentary pivot. It's a long view.
The promise doesn't dangle shock value, it invites trust.
It tells fans, we know what we're doing. Walk with us. And the response has been electric. Comment sections full of soft cheers, DMs lighting up with theories, a chorus of supporters ready to follow their lead into quieter, deeper waters.
Let's dream a little further.
A small film premiered at a festival chosen for story, not glitz. A scholarship launched discreetly, announced only after the first cohort of recipients has already begun. Workshops where Erkan mentors with grounded practicality and Hazal nurtures with precise kindness, each lending their strengths to build something enduring. A set where the crew feels seen, where the atmosphere is disciplined but warm, where the work is allowed to be soulful. A routine that includes dinners without phones and time reserved for family, even when the schedule says that's impossible.
This is what a promise looks like when it takes shape in the real world.
When the day comes for them to speak openly, listen closely to the verbs. Build,
choose, honor, create, protect.
These are the words that suit them now. We may hear about a project, yes, we may hear about a personal decision that reframes everything. Either way, the heart of the message will be the same: we are moving forward on purpose, and we are doing it together.
So where does that leave the rest of us?
Right here, watching, learning, supporting. We celebrate their courage to define their lives rather than letting headlines do it for them.
We take notes from their gentleness in a noisy world. And we wait, not passively, but with the kind of anticipation that respects their pace.
Because this promise, whispered between two people who know the cost and still choose the road, deserves time to bloom. As always, we'll be here at Whispers of Turkish Stars, following every subtle shift, every breadcrumb, every confirmation.
Tell us what you think the promise might be. Do you see a joint project on the horizon? A cause they plan to champion? A personal milestone that will turn a page for good?
Share your theories, your hopes, and your read on the clues. If this conversation stirred something in you, tap like, send it to a friend who cares about their journey, and make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. The next reveal could land at any time, and when it does, we'll be ready to walk through it together. Whatever the specifics, one truth shines through: this new chapter for Erkan, Meriç and Hazal Subaşı is built on intention, and their promise sounds like a compass. It points toward craftsmanship, courage, and care. It honors where they've been while daring to ask for more from what's ahead. And that, dear friends, is why we're paying attention, not to chase a headline, but to witness a story choosing its own heartbeat. Until the next episode, keep your eyes on the details and your heart open to the bigger picture. We'll be watching the same horizon, listening for the same clarifying notes.
When they finally speak, it won't be loud. It will be clear. And it will be worth the wait.